Hey everybody, this is Dave Dugdale, learningdslrvideo.com. So I'm going to talk about this package right here. It's the GoPro Hero4 Black Edition with the, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, it's like Feiyu-Tech. I've heard other people pronounce it on YouTube and I have really no idea how to pronounce it correctly. A lot of different pronunciations. Well, it's the G3 Ultra, which is kind of a mistake because I got it and I went to Hawaii and I used it for about 9 days straight. But there's another one that came out. It's like the G4, and I think it's actually out now, or maybe it's almost available for sale. So I don't even really want to get into this too much because I want to get the G4 in and not really talk about the G3 too much. But I want to talk about this as a combination package. So let's go ahead and look at some footage. As you can see from my shadow right here, I'm carrying the unit and the GoPro. And so I got up really early that morning to go on this helicopter ride around Maui. I pretty much went everywhere, which was fantastic. As you can see here, we're lifting off, and I got a really good seat out of all the people that were on this helicopter. I got one right next to the window, which is a lot of fun. And it was funny, as you can see, this other gentleman sitting next to me, I think he had a Micro Four Thirds camera like I did, because I brought the Panasonic GH4 with me. And I got there and I noticed that I didn't bring any SD cards with me for the GH4. I don't know how I screwed that up, but I did. And here we are flying through this canyon. This was just incredible. And you could hear my audio. I was like, holy shit, as we're going through it. Because he was really close to some of these trees, like right here and right there. I know this is a real wide angle lens. It doesn't look like it, but he was really close. And these waterfalls must have been, I don't know, 1,000 feet drop at least. I'm just making that number up, but it sure seemed like it was quite something. So it was fantastic having this device, because what's funny is I actually got to borrow somebody else's SD card that was in the helicopter. They're nice enough to lend me one of their cards, but the thing was I ended up shooting mostly with just this combination of the GH4 and the 3-axis gimbal, because I felt like I was getting better shots. Even though I didn't have a display on the back of it, I just knew I was getting much better shots with that. So I just concentrated on using this device, which is a lot of fun. And you can see the helicopter, he was just banking left and right and turning, and it always kept the horizon steady. So besides helicopter rides, I took a lot of boat rides. And as you can see, this nice lady is filling up my wine glass once again. We had a lot of fun. It was a great time. It was interesting, the crew members on all the boats we went on, including the helicopter pilot, had never seen a 3-axis gimbal like the one I was using. They're all asking questions about it, which was kind of fun. And I thought, many people would already start using these and they would start seeing them because it's nice to keep the horizon steady. And as you can see, the whales are kind of distant with the GoPro Hero4. So a lot of times I would use the Panasonic GH4 with the 35 to 100 to get shots like this that were nice and close, and even when the whales were maybe a few hundred yards off the boat. But having the boat in the frame a lot and even when you keep the horizon steady, can give you kind of a queasy feeling like watching this type of footage right here. So I kind of learned over time when I was bringing the footage home and taking a look at it afterwards, because I didn't have any sort of display on the back of the GoPro, when to keep a lot of the boat in frame. And here is just with a pole, no stabilization. I'm trying to keep the horizon as steady as I can, and the boat's moving pretty fast, but you can see I'm doing pretty much a terrible job trying to keep this steady. And this is a lot of what everybody else's footage looks like. But when you have the stabilizer, keeping that horizon steady is nice, but you just kind of have to watch how much of the boat you're including the frame and if the boat's moving around a lot, because it can still give you kind of a queasy feeling watching the footage. When you have calmer waters like on this boat in the morning when the sun was coming up, it worked pretty well. It's just knowing when to keep the boat in the frame. Like this shot right here, I think worked out really well with the horizon in the windows. And here I'm not including much of the boat, so you don't really get that kind of queasy feeling. And a lot of times I wouldn't correct the distortion, because when you do correct distortion, it's really CPU intensive. But a lot of times I would just hang it out over the railing or not include much of the boat, and you get some pretty nice shots with this device. A lot of times I would be playing around with slow motion, but when you have not much of the boat in the frame and you're shooting slow motion, you can get some really nice shots with this device. As you can see, I'm kind of craning up right here. Besides helicopters and boats, I wanted to obviously see how well you could walk with it. And as you can see, Here, I'm not doing that great a job. And there might be a couple of different reasons. I think one of them is I was wearing flip-flops or sandals basically the whole vacation. So I wasn't using my regular shoes, and I wasn't getting great footage, as you can see here, walking with it. It was kind of all over the place. I think it's just so lightweight. The darn thing is so light compared to something like the Nebula 4000 that I'm used to, that you're going to get this kind of shaky footage. And you can, in post, add some warp stabilization, but it's not easy to do. As you can see, I'm walking up these stairs, just not doing a great job. Again, I'm in flip-flops. Probably not the best thing, but then, you know, somebody like Devin Graham wears flip-flops all the time and you get smooth footage, so it's probably just me mostly. But just holding it steady is just really hard to do and to get some of this footage to look smooth, basically. So without the stabilizer in the water, you get some pretty shaky footage. And I was getting used to all that nice smooth motion with the stabilizer, but you know, without the stabilizer and just using the GoPro Hero4, it was nice having the 4K and all the slow motion. Especially, you know, in the surf with my girls, it was just a lot of fun. I'm not going to show any clips with my girls, but we had a fantastic time just going around snorkeling and doing a bunch of stuff. It was just a great family vacation. But the GoPro ended up being probably 80% of my family video when I was done with it. I was surprised how much I used the GoPro. And as Philip Bloom would say, and with the English accent, this is not a low light camera. The Hero 4 is, most of the time I would limit the ISO to not go above 400. In this case, I was going up to 1600. And as you can see, it's pretty noisy before the sun came up. This was well before the sun came up on this particular boat cruise that we were on at sunrise. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's, as you can see, it doesn't have the best performance in low light. So that's pretty much it for the Hero 4 with the gimbal. I just thought in closing I'd show you some footage from the Panasonic GH4 with 35 to 100 lens, which I was really using a lot on this particular vacation. Really was using the slow motion, gives me nice smooth footage. And I know other people have told me I'm spreading bad information, that when you shoot slow motion it doesn't give you smooth footage, or however that person phrased it. But for me, I enjoy using slow motion. It smooths out the footage for me, and here's just a few shots towards the end of some sunset footage with the GH4. I didn't shoot with the A7S that much. In fact, this last clip coming up will be the A7S, and that'll be pretty much it. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.